Imagine planting two tomato seeds from the same packet on the same day in the same soil. You water them the same way. They stand only a few feet apart and receive the same amount of sunlight. Yet several weeks later, one plant is nearly twice as tall as the other. The first plant has a thick stem, deep green leaves, and small tomatoes already beginning to form. The second plant is short, pale, and almost completely bare. Most people would look at those plants and assume that one seed was simply stronger. Perhaps one plant got lucky, while the other became sick. But that is not what happened. The stronger plant received something that the weaker plant never did. It was not an expensive fertilizer. It did not come from a garden center, and it cost almost nothing to make. In fact, you may already have everything you need sitting in your kitchen right now. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you the exact recipe, explain how to prepare correctly, and tell you how much to use. I will also show you the common mistake that can turn a useful garden tonic into something that does more harm than good. Over the generations, we have tried nearly everything. Some methods worked. Some were forgotten for a good reason. And some were so simple that people eventually stopped believing they could possibly work. The tonic I'm going to show you today belongs to that last group. A neighbor once watched me use it and called it my magic elixir. I told him there was nothing magical about it. It was simply an old way of helping tired soil become active again. Still, when you place two plants side by side and see the difference with your own eyes, I will admit that it can look a little like magic. Before I give you the recipe, you need to understand one idea. Once you understand it, you may never look at your garden in quite the same way again. You're not really feeding the plant. You're feeding the soil, and the soil feeds the plant. That is the heart of the entire method. Many people think fertilizer is something you hand directly to a plant, almost like placing a plate of food in front of a hungry child. So they buy a brightly colored powder, mix it with water, and pour a strong dose around the roots. The plant absorbs a sudden rush of nutrients and may grow quickly. It becomes tall and green, and for a little while everything looks wonderful. But fast growth is not always healthy growth. A plant can become large while remaining weak. It can produce leaves without producing much fruit. And if the soil underneath it is neglected, the plant may become increasingly dependent on whatever comes out of the fertilizer bag. My grandfather used to say that the ground is not just dirt, it is alive. Beneath every healthy garden is an entire hidden world. There are bacteria, fungi, tiny organisms, decaying roots, and organic matter working together. Most of them are too small for us to see, but they help break down material and make nutrients available to plants. A tomato plant cannot simply reach into the soil and use everything that is present there. Some nutrients are locked away in forms that its roots cannot easily absorb. The living community in the soil helps transform those nutrients into forms the plant can use. When the soil is active, the roots have help. When the soil is tired, compacted, or nearly lifeless, the plant may struggle even when the ground appears rich. That is why this tonic is not meant to be a powerful fertilizer that forces the plant to grow. It is meant to support the living activity around the roots. You feed the life in the soil. That life helps release nutrients, and the roots gain access to what was already there. Now, let us make the tonic. For 1 gallon, you will need a few simple ingredients. The first ingredient is plain baking yeast, the same kind used for making bread. A living bread starter may also work, but ordinary active yeast is the easiest option. You will need about 1 tablespoon. The yeast is the heart of the mixture. It becomes active when it receives warmth, water, and sugar. The second ingredient is molasses. You will need about 2 tablespoons. Plain sugar may be used when molasses is not available, but molasses is the better choice. Sugar mainly provides energy, while molasses also contains small amounts of minerals. The third ingredient is buttermilk. You will need about 1 cup. The buttermilk is optional. The tonic can still be prepared without it, so do not abandon the whole recipe because you do not have any. But when it is available, it can add additional organic material and calcium to the mixture. The final ingredient is baking soda. You need only 1 teaspoon. Remember that carefully, 1 teaspoon, not 1 tablespoon. Adding more will not make the tonic more effective. Too much baking soda can disturb the balance of the mixture and may affect the soil in a way you do not want. You will also need 1 gallon of water. The water may seem like the least important part, but it matters more than most people realize. The water should be lukewarm, roughly the temperature of comfortable bath water. It should not be hot. Hot water can kill the yeast before the process even begins. Very cold water is not ideal either because it can slow everything down. Gentle warmth helps the yeast become active. The water should also contain as little chlorine as possible. Chlorine is added to municipal water to reduce the growth of microorganisms. That is useful when the goal is to make drinking water safer, but it works against us when we are deliberately trying to activate a living mixture. Rainwater is an excellent choice when it is collected safely in a clean container. My family collected rainwater from the barn roof and stored it in barrels. It was free, naturally soft, and did not contain the same treatment chemicals found in town water. When rainwater is not available, you can leave tap water standing in an open container overnight. This may allow some of the chlorine to dissipate. Filtered or spring water may also be used for a smaller batch. Now we come to the step that many impatient gardeners skip. It is also the step that determines whether you create an active tonic or simply a bucket of sweet water. First, pour the lukewarm water into a clean container. Add the molasses or sugar and stir until it has completely dissolved. Then sprinkle the yeast across the surface of the water. Do not immediately stir it deep into the mixture. Let it rest on the surface for a while so it can hydrate gradually. Then you wait. Give it at least a couple of hours. For your first batch, leaving it overnight is even better. When you return, look at the surface. You want to see a layer of tan foam or froth. It may resemble the head that forms on a glass of beer. That foam tells you the yeast has become active and is feeding on the sugar. You may also notice a mild, bready smell. That is another sign that something is happening. When a mixture shows no foam, no bubbles, and no activity at all, the yeast may be old or the water may have been too hot. In that case, it is better to start again. It is far better to discover that the yeast is inactive while it is still in the bucket than to pour a useless mixture around your plants and wonder why nothing changes. Once the mixture is foaming, stir in the buttermilk if you are using it. Then add 1 teaspoon of baking soda and mix everything gently. Your tonic is now ready. But before you carry it into the garden, let me explain why each ingredient is there. The yeast is the main worker. It is a living organism that becomes active when it receives sugar and warm water. As it feeds, it produces compounds that may encourage biological activity in organic material. When applied carefully, the mixture provides a temporary source of energy around the soil surface. The molasses provides much of that energy. It feeds the yeast and may also provide food for some of the microorganisms already living in the soil. Compared with plain white sugar, molasses contains small amounts of minerals such as iron, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. It is not a complete fertilizer, but it brings more to the mixture than sweetness alone. The buttermilk adds organic material and calcium. Tomato plants need calcium to build strong cell walls. When developing fruit cannot receive enough calcium, blossom end rot may appear. This is the dark, sunken patch that forms on the bottom of a tomato. However, it is important to understand that blossom end rot is not always caused by a complete lack of calcium in the soil. Often, the plant simply cannot transport calcium properly because watering has been irregular or the roots have been stressed. That means buttermilk should never be treated as a guaranteed cure. Consistent moisture, healthy roots, and balanced soil conditions still matter. The tonic may support the soil, but it cannot correct every gardening problem by itself. The baking soda has a smaller role. In a very limited amount, it can slightly reduce acidity at the surface of the mixture. But this is exactly why the measurement matters. A little may be harmless in many soils. Too much can introduce excess sodium and disturb the soil structure. More is not better. Now let us talk about how to use the tonic, because this is where a careless gardener can cause trouble. First, never pour the mixture onto completely dry soil. Water the garden lightly with plain water before applying the tonic. The ground should be damp, but it does not need to be soaked. Applying a concentrated mixture directly to dry roots can stress the plant. Damp soil helps the tonic spread more evenly through the root zone. Second, pour the tonic onto the soil, not onto the leaves. Create a loose ring around the plant several inches away from the main stem. This is where many of the active feeding roots are growing. Do not pour the entire dose directly against the stem. Keeping the stem constantly wet can encourage rot and disease. The goal is to introduce the mixture into the surrounding soil, where it can interact with organic matter and the root system. Third, resist the temptation to use too much. This is the mistake people make with nearly every garden treatment. They see a small improvement and immediately assume that 3 times the amount will produce 3 times the result. Gardens rarely work that way. Too much sugar can encourage unwanted microbial growth. Too much yeast can create an unpleasant fermenting mess. Too much baking soda can damage the balance of the soil. The old measure is the sensible measure. For very small seedlings, use only a few drops near each plant, no more than twice a week. For a young tomato plant growing in a container, use about 1/4 of a cup. For a mature plant growing in the ground, use up to 1 full cup once or twice a week. Continue watering normally between applications. This tonic is a supplement. It is not a replacement for water, compost, sunlight, or proper soil care. Watch the plant carefully. Over the following weeks, you may notice that the leaves become greener. New growth may appear stronger. The stems may thicken, and the plant may begin producing more branches and flowers. But I will not promise that every plant will double in size or suddenly become covered in tomatoes. Every garden is different. Climate matters. Soil texture matters. Sunlight, drainage, temperature, plant variety, pests, and watering habits all matter. Anyone who promises that one kitchen recipe will transform every garden overnight is probably trying to sell you something. What I can tell you is that plants tend to perform better when the soil around their roots is biologically active, rich in organic matter, and watered consistently. This tonic may help support that environment, especially when it is used alongside compost, mulch, and sensible gardening practices. The same general method may also be tested around peppers, cucumbers, squash, and other garden plants. Start with a small amount. Observe the response. Never pour a new mixture across the entire garden before testing it on 1 or 2 plants. That is another lesson my grandfather taught me. A careful gardener does not gamble the whole crop on an untested idea. Now you may be wondering why methods like this are rarely discussed at garden centers. The answer is simple. There is not much money to be made from rainwater, yeast, and a spoonful of molasses. There is much more money in selling a colorful bag with a photograph of an enormous tomato printed across the front. That does not mean every commercial fertilizer is bad. A properly chosen fertilizer can correct a real nutrient deficiency. It can help plants growing in containers, where nutrients are quickly washed away. It can also support crops growing in poor soil when it is used responsibly. The problem begins when gardeners believe that fertilizer alone creates healthy soil. It does not. A powder may provide nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but it cannot replace organic matter, soil structure, microbial diversity, moisture, drainage, and healthy roots. When strong fertilizers are repeatedly overused, salts may accumulate. Soil organisms may be disturbed. Plants may produce excessive leafy growth while becoming more vulnerable to stress. The gardener then responds by adding even more fertilizer. That creates a cycle of dependence. A better approach is to treat the soil as a long-term investment. Add compost. Protect the surface with mulch. Avoid digging or compacting the ground more than necessary. Rotate crops when possible. Keep living roots in the soil. Use fertilizer only when there is a clear reason for it. And when you use a tonic like this one, think of it as a small part of that larger system. Let's go through the recipe one more time. Start with 1 gallon of lukewarm, low-chlorine water. Stir in 2 tablespoons of molasses. Plain sugar may be used when molasses is unavailable. Sprinkle 1 tablespoon of active baking yeast across the surface. Allow the mixture to rest for several hours, or preferably overnight. until a layer of foam forms. Then stir in 1 cup of buttermilk if you choose to use it. Finally, add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Do not add more. Lightly water the soil before applying the tonic. Pour a small amount in a ring around the plant, several inches away from the stem. Keep it off the leaves and avoid soaking the base of the plant. Use only a few drops for seedlings, about 1/4 cup for a young potted plant, and no more than 1 cup for a mature plant growing in the ground. Apply it once or twice a week and observe the plant carefully. That is the entire method. There is no secret bottle, no expensive equipment, and no miracle powder. The real lesson is much bigger than the recipe. A garden is not something you force into producing. It is something you support. You care for the soil beneath the plant. You protect the roots. You provide water, air, organic matter, and time. Then you step back and allow the plant to do what it was created to do. My grandfather never bought a bag of plant food in his life, yet his tomatoes were the envy of the township. It was not because he knew a magical recipe. It was because he paid attention to the ground. He understood that every season leaves something behind. Healthy soil improves when it is fed and protected. Neglected soil becomes harder, weaker, and less productive. A garden that feeds a family year after year is a garden whose soil remembers how to live. Before you leave, tell me what you are growing this season. Are you growing tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, or something completely different? And what kind of soil do you have where you live? Is it heavy clay, loose sand, or rich black loam? Share your county or region in the comments as well. It is always interesting to see how the same plants behave in different parts of the country. And remember this, the secret was never only in the plant. It was always in the ground beneath it.